As 4 o'clock rolled around, the white minivan pulled in. I got in and sat next to her brother. He was a short, dark-haired, tan-skinned kid with buck teeth and glasses. "Hi," he said. I said the same thing in return. "Leo, this is Calvin." "Hi, Calvin. I'm Sarah's mom, Mrs. Podowski." Her mom was a short, pudgy woman who had short, dark hair with gray streaks and glasses. She had a very upbeat voice. "Hi, thanks for picking me up." "Well, now you know my last name," Sarah said, as she turned her head back and smiled. "So you want to play Mario Kart?" Leo asked. "Yeah, I'll try. I've only played Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo," I said. "I've never played that before." "Maybe you can come over and play sometime?" "Cool." I envied that kid's happiness and innocence at that age. Both parents intact. He was filled with such excitement. They appeared to be a pretty happy family, from what I gathered. I felt like I was stepping into a whole new dimension. I didn't mind it, though. I felt nervous, but at the same time, I felt like I could let my guard down. Her house was a lot bigger than my house. It was 2 stories. They had a bigger backyard as well. As we got out of the van, I pulled out my wallet. Here, Mrs. Podowski, for the gas. My mom left me money in case I had to take a bus or give gas money to a friend. "Oh, don't worry about it, dear. Just come inside." We walked inside, and I looked up at the crystal chandelier above the doorway. The stairway had light brown wooden steps. There were paintings on the white walls to the sides. I looked down at the white tiled floors and took my shoes off. "Wow, nice place." "Thank you. Make yourself at home. I'm going to get dinner ready," Mrs. P said. Sarah smiled and looked me up and down. "Speaking of nice, I love that shirt." "Yeah, well, it's not what I usually wear, but I wanted to do something different." I didn't want to make it sound like I was trying to impress anyone. Then it would seem like I was trying too hard. In reality, we all have moments where we hide behind those walls just to make sure it's safe. Then we all walked into the living room as Leo handed me a controller and told me what buttons to press for Mario Kart. The first couple races I did horrible, and then I got the hang of it. On the 4th race, I got 5th place and Leo got 1st. Then Sarah played against me. We kept trading off 3rd place through the race, and I would bump my shoulder into her and throw her off. "Hey!" she shouted as she laughed. She still beat me. She got 3rd and I got 4th. We played a couple more times. During the last race, I pushed her joystick to the side and caused her character to crash. "Jerk," she said, and she did the same thing to me in return. We laughed and looked into each other's eyes. Our skin touched just for 3 seconds. It felt like a wave of some kind of energy was magnetically drawing our gaze. The other racers were passing us, but we didn't care. I felt like I had won the race already. Our heads got closer, inch by inch. "Dinner!" her mom shouted from the kitchen. I suppose something had to kill the magnetism. If it got steamy, that would have been really awkward in front of her family. We got up and walked to the dinner table. Her mother made spaghetti and meatballs. There was a glass of water next to the plate, waiting for me at the table. I guess they weren't big on drinking soda. As we started to eat, Mrs. P asked me about my brother and my parents. I told her what I told Sarah. "Oh, that's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that, dear." I nodded in response. So, you're a musician? What kind of music do you play? Punk rock. We just started off. I know people tend to relate punk music with troublemakers, but it's about energy for me. Punk was more than that for me. It was freedom to do and say what we wanted to do and say. It was a way to get my frustration and grievances out. It was the only music I grew up listening to. I'm not saying I'm an expert or know more than anyone else, but punk is a big part of my life. I couldn't explain that, though. I felt she would get the wrong idea. Oh, what instrument do you play? Guitar. Well, I told her how long I've been playing over the past few months or so. I had almost forgotten that the guitar I had at home was Scotty's. It felt like it was mine. I don't think Scotty was missing it. He only had the guitar case the guitar in case he had to play it himself. If no one else joined the band, he would play. It was something that connected him with his dad. I vowed at that moment to stick with the band and pay him back someday to purchase that guitar. It wasn't going to leave his sight because I felt like I was going away. I wasn't going away anytime soon. So, do you have any plans for college? Her mom asked. I looked over at Sarah nervously. Well, I guess if my band doesn't work out, I could go to Fulmore. Where's that? It's a college in Florida. They do music production there. Oh wow, that sounds like a college you would enjoy. Sarah is going to the Chicago Art Institute. Oh, that's cool. Then her mom pointed to the painting on the wall of the girl's face staring up at the moon. The girl's face was in the lower left corner. It was staring diagonally towards the moon. As they were having a moment, as if the two were having a moment. Kind of felt like what happened before dinner. Wow, that's actually really good. It is, her mom replied. Sarah looked down and blushed, then looked up and smiled. Mom, can we go to Calvin's tomorrow? I want to play his Mario game, Leo shouted. Well, I don't know. Will your mother be home? No, but you can come along if you like. Mrs. P paused for a second and looked at Sarah. Well, I suppose it'll be alright as long as Leo goes with you. Yes, Leo shouted. I sat there and thought about the game he played compared to my game. With games of his generation, he might be disappointed. His generation was all about the graphics. My generation was all about the gameplay. After we ate, I thanked her mom for dinner. We sat back and watched Leo play Mario Kart. So, you're an artist, huh? She rolled her eyes and let out a quiet nose laugh, where the air just escapes your nose. It was too quiet to be considered a snort. I'm not that good. Then I looked up above the TV screen. There was another painting. This one was of an old man with a beard, staring into what appeared to be his younger self in the mirror. The walls in the mirror frame were gold. You could see very little of the old man's face, but noticed the gray beard and his bony hands. The young man had short dark hair that reminded me of James Bond, and a face that looked like Jim Morrison of The Doors. You make that one? I asked. She nodded. That is one of my favorites so far. It kind of makes you think about how we get older and ask, "What the hell happened to me?" I commented. She let out another silent nose laugh and smiled. "Yeah, but there are so many artists out there. My paintings aren't half as good," she said with a sigh. "That's the main problem with our world," I replied. "We are so overpopulated, we think just because one person was chosen over the next, that we aren't good enough. It's not about being the best. It's not about competing. It's about your own expression. It's about tossing breadcrumbs in a lake and seeing if any fish or ducks come to take them. If not, eventually one will. I don't have the visual talents you do. Actually, you could design flyers for our shows." She laughed out loud this time. "I don't know if I could do that." "I would like you to. You don't have to if you don't want to, of course." "I don't know what I would draw," she replied. "Just come up with some crazy cartoonish designs. Your art is begging to be shown." I could try. Just have fun doing what you do. If you don't get it done, that's okay. If you don't want to, that's alright. I just would love to combine your art with our band. I think it'd be cool." She blushed and smiled. I got out of the van after they drove me home, and Sarah got out with me. "See you tomorrow, Leo. Thanks for the ride, Mrs. Podowski," I said. "You're welcome, dear. Nice meeting you. Have a good night." Sarah and I walked up to the door as we looked into each other's eyes and smiled. Then we looked away. "Hey, I'm sorry if I sounded too pushy earlier. I just really like your artwork and I got carried away." "It's okay. It was sweet of you to say. Thank you." And she hugged me. We held that embrace for at least a minute. We didn't want to let go. We stared into each other's eyes, and then her eyes shifted towards the van. "Well, good night." "Night," I said quietly as I smiled. I watched as she walked back to the van and rode off. I tried to shake off the nerves. After all, we were just starting out. They came over the next day. I turned on the NES. This was pretty much the most popular game when I was born. "Whoa, it looks so weird," Leo replied. "Yeah, it's not the easiest game in the world, though." We played a 2-player game and took turns. I taught him the controls while I played. I lost at that point, where I entered the warp tunnel at the end of the Dark Castle in level 1, where Lakitus the Koopa tossed a Spiny, a turtle with a spiky shell, down on me and shrunk me. I jumped on another Spiny by mistake and lost. I handed him the controller. He sat on the floor and I guided him through. When you get to the Dark Castle part, you should just skip the warp and go straight through since you just started. Then Sarah's hand touched mine. I looked over at her and we looked at our hands. Then our hands intertwined. I loved the warm feel I got when our hands touched. It was like a warm wave that just sent this positive feeling through me. We looked into each other's eyes and smiled. He did extremely well for his first try. He got through 2 castles, and I warned him to avoid the fish in the underwater part. He got up to the beginning of the level with the dark sky and dropped into a pit. "Fuck!" he yelled. "Leo!" Sarah shouted at him. I tried to hide my laughter. Sorry, but I got so far, as he handed me the controller. An hour later, I got a game over. I told Leo after he was done, to play on his own. I went to my room to grab my guitar and sat on the couch to play. She touched my arm and put her head around my shoulder. I tilted my head down to touch hers. You want to try? No, I can't play at all. I can show you a chord. Then with the right rhythm, you'll be able to at least play that. She let out another nose laugh. Okay. I handed her the guitar. Here, turn your back towards me so I can show you. Then she positioned herself to face sideways, her knees pointing towards the arm of the couch, and the head of the guitar pointing at the TV screen. Now put your finger on the second fret. Cover all the strings except for the top one. Just kind of rest it and line it up so your pointer finger isn't touching the edge of the fret here, but it's lined up next to it. She pressed the fret down, and I strummed the two strings 2 times each in a rhythmic pattern that was kind of similar to the bass note at the beginning of Knight Rider. You get the point. Just push a little more. Then she plays the chord. Good, now try the rhythm. She played the rhythm and laughed. I did it, I can play one chord, she said as she laughed and leaned back. So she was lying on my chest while she played. A couple hours later, their mom pulled into the driveway to pick them up. We walked over to the front door. Can you come over to play Mario Kart tomorrow? Leo asked. Sorry, buddy. I have band practice tomorrow. I'd invite you guys, but Scotty is having issues with his girlfriend, so we're kind of keeping it a band members only type thing for now. Sorry. Sarah smiled. It's okay. Thank you for inviting us over. It was fun. We looked into each other's eyes, and then she hugged me. We held the hug for about 30 seconds. I felt like I was in heaven for that half minute. Then we said our bye for nows. They walked out into the van and drove off. The van was already out of sight, yet I was still staring out the door, holding on to each moment. I was lost inside this realm. It's like walking across a beautiful path you've never seen before. You don't know where you're headed, but you feel too good to turn back. Not a care in the world for potential dangers that may get in the way. It just looks a hell of a lot nicer than the other direction. I got a phone call from Scotty. Hey brother, we're not having practice tonight. Dev called and said he was sick. He sounded pretty bad. That sucks. Okay, so Sunday then? That's the plan. Okay, bye. Part of me was bummed, but part of me was excited too. I decided to call Sarah right after that. Hello? Hi, Sarah? Yeah? Hey, it's Calvin. Practice got canceled today, so I was wondering if you wanted to have lunch in the park again. Yeah, sure, that sounds great. Cool. I'll see you in a couple hours then? Okay, see you then. Bye. Bye. Then I hung up and jumped in the shower. I jumped out, dried off, and put one of my shirts I designed on with my black jeans. I know that dressing up for her mom wasn't very punk of me, but I'm not going to let what is and what is not define who I am personally. Sometimes people dress a certain way to get you to hear their words easier. It's strange. It's kind of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame or Phantom of the Opera. It can be beautiful to hear them, but people can get uncomfortable when you look a certain way by that point. I'm pretty sure it didn't matter what I wore, because her mom and I got along quite well. I packed 2 lunch bags in my backpack, grabbed the blanket, and headed there. It was a nice Friday afternoon, a slight breeze in the warm summer air. She was on the bench waiting for me, just like last time. Then we rolled out the blanket and sat down. "So, what's on the menu today?" she asked as she smiled. I pulled out the 2 bags from my backpack and unloaded them. We got PB&J sandwiches, barbecue chips, Reese's. I got you an extra bottle of water if you want one, and a diet or regular soda. "Oh, cool. I'll take the Reese's. Thanks for the water." She smiled as she opened her bag. This time she had a BLT with her apple slices and peanut butter. We started eating and looking around. There were kids running around in the wood chips on the playground. They dashed up the stairs to the slide. We saw a little blonde girl with a pink shirt and blue denim shorts with a blonde-haired boy wearing a green shirt and blue denim shorts. They stood on the platform near the slide. Then another boy with dark hair wearing a blue shirt and blue shorts would run up, and they'd scream with laughter and slide down. "Ah, to be that young again," I said. "Oh, come on, we're not that old," she said with a nose laugh. "I'm not talking about age." "Then what?" Never mind. I just kind of wish I had a happier childhood, I guess." "Oh. Yeah, I wasn't a very happy kid. My mom was an alcoholic that rarely was home, and my brother and I didn't really talk much." "I'm sorry," she said, as we looked into each other's eyes for a second. "It's okay. I know this sounds weird, but these past 12 months have been the best moments of my life. I mean, I joined a band. My mom cut down a little bit on her drinking. I played my first gig. And then I met you." She smiled and let out a nose laugh. She looked down and blushed. I helped her clean up our area. Then we lay side by side on the blanket. My hand was on top of hers. "It's such a beautiful day," she said, as we stared up at the blue sky with clouds floating across. I looked up at her while she was still gazing up and said, "Yes, it is. Sunny blue sky, clouds that just come and go. Not too hot." "Don't forget the most important part," I interrupted. "What's that?" she asked as she turned to me and we locked eyes. "You're here. That's what makes this the most beautiful day." She smiled and kissed me on the lips real quick and broke away. We locked eyes, and our heads felt like they were magnetically drawing closer together. Then we kissed softly. I remember the vibes going through my mind and body at that moment. A rush of euphoria drove through me for at least a half hour while we kissed. Then we heard a child yell, "Mommy, look over there!" So we stopped what we were doing and broke down laughing. My first kiss. I felt like I was stuck in a loop and could stay in that moment forever. We just laid there staring into each other's eyes. We didn't want to look away. A couple hours later, we packed up and I walked her home. We held hands the entire time. When I got to her house, her mom invited me for dinner that night and offered to drive me home. We played Mario Kart with Leo and sat around for a few hours until it was time for dinner. Her mom made sloppy joes, and we had carrot sticks with ranch dressing on the side. Sloppy joes aren't the most flattering food to eat in front of your date, but it was out of our hands. No pun intended. We looked at each other, wiping our mouths while we ate, and silently laughed. "Mom, can we see Rocky and Bullwinkle tomorrow?" Leo asked. "Who's we?" Sarah replied. "All of us." Sarah looked at me and I smiled. "Don't you think you should ask Calvin first?" Sarah asked. "It's okay." "No, it's okay. Yeah, I'll go with you, pal." Sarah rolled her eyes and let out a nose laugh. "Well, I have errands to run tomorrow, but I can drop you off before that if you don't mind." "Sure," I shrugged. Sarah walked with me to the door after her mom dropped me off. We stood there staring into each other's eyes. "So, I guess I'll see you tomorrow." "Yeah, thanks for walking me home and having dinner. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow." "Yeah, thanks for walking me home and having dinner with us. It was fun." "Oh, it was fun. It was a fun day, all right," I said slightly. She giggled and blushed. "Well, bye," she said. We were still entranced. "Bye," I replied. She quickly kissed me on the lips and walked back to the van. That kiss brought me back to the park. The way the light touched her face, the breeze gently blowing through her hair. Such a beautiful moment. It might sound strange, but I wish we had a video camera at that moment. It's forever embedded in my mind. But the mind doesn't always do memories justice. The next day, her mom picked us up and dropped us off at the mall across from the theater. We had 2 hours before the movie started, so Sarah brought us a couple of sodas, and we sat on the bench while Leo ran into Play Today, a store where you can try out playable demos from video games. I rested my hand upon my knee. She put her hand over mine. "Thanks for coming with. My brother really likes having you around, I think." "Do you like having me around?" I said with a sly smile. She looked down and blushed. "Yeah, I like having you around too," she said as she smiled and looked into my eyes. We kissed softly for a minute or two, forgetting everything in those moments. The movie was terrible, but Leo loved it. I'm a fan of De Niro and Jason Alexander, but I hardly even remember anything from it, so it wasn't very memorable. Leo kept quoting it. I just smiled at Sarah and shook my head. She rolled her eyes and let out a nose laugh. It was an excuse to be close to each other, so we didn't care. No matter how boring or lame something was, as long as we experienced it together, I was fine. We walked out of the theater and had an hour to kill. So we walked around the mall. A Serbian man in a kiosk maneuvered his remote control robot to walk over to Leo's foot. "Whoa," Leo said. Yeah, hey you buy for brother?" the man said while pointing at me. Sarah and I laughed. He's not my brother, I said, and I shrugged. See, he like you buy. Sorry, not interested. Come on, Leo, Sarah replied. Do you think Mom will buy it for me if I ask her? Yeah, you go now. Ask Mama, the man said. Sarah grabbed Leo's arm and we walked on. What are you doing? Stop! Leo, you can ask Mom if you can buy it, but that guy was in a hurry to get money that we don't have. So let's go. There was a lot of salespeople and kiosks that were in a rush at that mall. They were like zombies that you had to maneuver around to avoid. Some grabbed your arm and put lotion on you, and some would repeatedly attempt to give you a massage. So many hands. On our way to the exit, we passed a guy selling rings. Hey, man, you buy her a ring. You propose. Sarah laughed. If you propose now, it would ruin the magic. What, you some kind of magician? He replied. She laughed. I goofed around and got on one knee. Then she elbowed me to stop. We said our goodbyes at the front door later. Listen, I know it's kind of early yet, but do you want to make this official? Like, start a relationship? Oh, I thought official meant getting married, I said, like a smartass. You know what I meant, she said and laughed. Yeah, that'd be cool, I said. Sarah smiled. Okay. We made out for a moment and then hugged. I'll call you tomorrow before practice, I said. Okay, bye, she said as she walked into the van and rode off. I hopped back on the truck the next day. Before practice, we decided to grab a shake at Crown the Clown. They didn't have a drive-thru, so we had to go to the food court to get them. When Casey got out of the truck, I noticed a scar near his left eye. What happened to you? I asked. Casey shook his head. When you guys left, Mike jumped Dev and I from behind. Dev just got kicked in the gut to make sure he stayed down. Cops came and the officer let me go because he knew Mike was abusing his daddy's power. If we stayed a couple minutes longer, Scotty and I would have looked like that. Possibly Ken too. Ken came along to practice that day. We were walking out of the food court when we spotted Mike Cass eating lunch with Phoebe. What the? Shh, Casey said, interrupting Scotty. I have a plan. Let's go. We went back to Casey's truck to plan our revenge. Ken went behind Mike a few minutes later and poured a shake over Mike's head. What the fuck? Phoebe shouted. Mike stood up. You are dead. Ken started running towards the bathroom as Mike chased after him. Scotty and Devin poured their shakes over Phoebe's head. Take that, you bitch! Fuck you! Scotty shouted. Then he and Dev ran back to the truck. When Mike reached the men's room, Casey threw a quick punch to his gut and another quick punch to Mike's head, knocking him out. Bradley, Casey, Ken, and I pulled him into the handicap stall and positioned him against the rail. We duct taped him to both the rail and the wall. It took about 2 rolls. Marco stood outside as our lookout. Then we duct taped his mouth shut. Hey, Bradley, do you have your digital camera on you? Bradley was kind of an electronics kid. He came in handy when it came to setting things up at shows. Yeah, he said nervously. Take a pic real quick. Casey grunted at him. Bradley took a pic, and then Casey slapped Mike around to wake him up. Mike started screaming when he woke up, duct tape strapped to his mouth. Casey showed him the camera. See this? We got your ass. You rat on us, or fuck with us again, we make copies and show all your little buddies that you ain't shit. Then we walked back to the truck. It felt good to get revenge on that douche after years of being harassed. It was a proud day for Dirty Apple. Chapter 7. July 1st, 2001. Our group went to Play Arcade in Waukegan. At this point, arcades in Waukegan were slipping away fast. This was one of the 2 remaining arcades in the area. A dark-lit place with black lights and neon designs on the carpet. They had Pac-Man, Joust, Frogger, Donkey Kong, X-Men Arcade, WrestleMania the arcade game, and much more. Dude, Devin shouted as he rushed over to me. They have Pong! Cool, I replied and shrugged. I played a few Donkey Kong games a few times, but besides Mario and Mario Kart, I never really played many games. You playing? He asked, with a look of excitement on his face. Nah, I replied. Come on, buddy, he said in a strange accent. All right. We walked over to the machine and put in our coins. It was a fun game, although it got boring after a couple games. It didn't get more basic than Pong. I kind of miss games like that. Simple, basic games. People had to complicate things just to show what they can do. As long as we make things more complicated, we feel that justifies raising the prices of games. Devin beat me 3-2 out of 5 games. I walked over to Scotty. He was playing House of the Dead on arcade. Fucking zombie bitch! He yelled as he pointed the electronic gun at the screen, moving the crosshair and firing. The arcade gave Scotty some much-needed therapy to get his frustration out. Then we walked over by Marcos and Bradley, who were playing the arcade version of NES Golf. All these arcade games, and you guys are playing golf? It's fun, Bradley squeaked. That's about as close to a hole as you're gonna get, Devin whispered to me. Meaning Bradley, not me. We headed over by Casey. He was playing this motorbike racing game called Hog Wild. We watched as he finished 3rd in his race. Okay, me and you, buddy, let's go, Devin said to Casey and hopped on. During their race, Devin was in the lead most of the time. But right before the finish line, Casey knocked Devin's driver off his bike and rode through the finish line. Yes! Eat that shit! Casey grunted. I'll be right back, Devin said, while walking to the bathroom. What's the matter, man? Butt hurt? He grunted as he laughed. I started walking towards the dining area of the arcade when I saw an old man in a golfer's hat and a white shirt and green vest with khakis, shaking a penny and shouting in a little boy's face. Penny, 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 penny. Then he goes over to me and points. You, here, he shouted. I walked over to him. You, brother? Then he pointed to the kid. No, I don't even know this kid. Then he squinted at me, looking confused. What do you say? Then he shakes the penny in my face and points to the gumball machine. Penny, 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 penny. One of the employees walked over and started talking to him in a different language. The guy's name was Dino. I'm guessing he was Greek. He had tan skin, dark hair, kind of buff, and looked like a few classmates of mine that were Greek. He had tan skin, dark hair, kind of buff, and looked like, I already said this. 1, 2, 3. No more putting pennies in the quarter slot, okay, buddy? You need a quarter. I walked towards the dining area. I'm guessing the old man owned the place. I approached the food counter as Dino followed and went behind the counter. What can I get you? Devin walked up beside me. Want to split a pizza? Want to split a pizza? I'll get you a soda too if you want, Devin asked. Sure. Cheese and sausage? He asked again. That's cool. So he put in our order and we waited. Dino put our pizza down on the table and handed us our drinks. The old man took the little boy by the hand and pointed to the chair. You, sit. The kid looked like he was 4 years old. I smiled. Watch this. I walked over to the counter and ordered a hot fudge sundae. Then I gave it to the kid. You can have this whole sundae if you stay there, okay? I said. The little boy nodded. His mom walked over. She was a chubby, dark-haired woman with glasses, wearing a black shirt and black pants. She started yelling at Dino. What do you think you are? Listen, lady, I'm not responsible. You need my permission. Ho, 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 Devin shouted as he stood up. Your kid could have walked out of here. Nobody would have noticed. Yet here you are, complaining about ice cream. He needs to ask me. I'm sorry, is your son diabetic? No, but he could. Is he lactose? He could have. Then please, you have a son that is safe, healthy, and happy. Sit down and share that with him. Appreciate your time together. She threw her hands up in the air and sat down. May I have a spoon, please? She asked, accepting defeat. She ate a couple spoonfuls and then threw the sundae in the trash. Her son started screaming as she picked him up and carried him out. Why do people have to be like that, man? If you get pissed off, you're gonna get pissed on, Devin said. Typical mother, always complaining about something, I replied. My mom doesn't complain like that. When I get out of hand, my parents would just gently touch my shoulders or they'd tell me to settle down. They give me a reason to settle down without throwing a fit. My mom always threw a fit, I said. What about... Oh. Devin said, that whole awkward moment when you're about to mention someone close who died. So, what do your parents do anyway? I asked, hoping to change the subject very quickly. Well, my dad runs the Wally's Barn shop down the street. You know, the bookstore? Oh, yeah. My mom is a manager at Lenny's, he said. That's cool, I replied. Yeah, dude, if you ever want a free meal, just ask for Dev's mom. She'll get the hint. What's your last name anyway? I forgot. Jeffries. Devin Ryan Jeffries. We finished our food and played X-Men Arcade. He played as Cyclops, and I was Wolverine. He really got into the game screaming, "Yee-hoo!" Then after we got whooped halfway through the game, Devin ran over to House of the Dead and joined Scotty. He picked up the gun and started shouting. "Ah!" He yelled, shouting his lungs out. Scotty would join in, making it a shouting duet. The old man with the golfer's hat marched over and yelled, "No, you!" Then he pointed at them and put his fingers to his mouth. "Shh." We walked to the truck, and Devin darted in front of us. "That was fun, guys." He held out his fist. "Woo?" "Ah, come on," Casey grunted and smiled. He pointed his fist in my direction. "Woo?" I rolled my eyes and pounded his fist. "Woo." He walked over towards Bradley and Marcos with two fists. "Woo." "Woo," they said as they fist bumped him. He moved over to Scotty. "Woo?" Then Scotty socked him in the shoulder. "Whoa!" Scotty shouted as we laughed and got in the truck. I woke up the next morning and called Sarah. We made plans a few days prior to spend the day with each other. It was our 1-year anniversary. "Hello?" she answered, her voice sending a smile to my face. "Hey, it's Cal. We still on for today?" "Yep. I'll see you in 3 hours." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too." I should probably backtrack and fill you guys in. In August of 2000, Sarah and I were making out on my couch. "Hold on. I have a surprise for you," I told her. I brought out my guitar and started playing a song I wrote for her. I realized you can't hear the song, but the lyrics went like this. "The sun came out today. The clouds have gone away. The skies have gone from gray to blue. This feeling that I get, I'm not used to it yet. Can't be described, it's something new. You are my parachute when I'm soaring through the air. You are all that surrounds when nothing else is there. Oh, I think I'm falling in love." "I love you," I said, with my nerves shaking out of control. "I love you too," she said, as our eyes both burned with desire. Then we kissed. It was a good feeling. I don't really sing, but she was into it, so I guess it went alright. It wasn't about the sound of the song anyhow. Back to July 2nd, 2001. It was our 1-year anniversary. We had lunch at the park. I'll spare you the food details this time. I did give her a Reese's, though, since that was our treat. We walked over to Gage's Lake, sat and watched the ducks. 2 ducks were gliding together side by side. It was slightly romantic in a poetic kind of way. We watched the sun set and then walked to Lenny's for dinner. A chubby woman with a red blotchy face and gray hair seated us. She was dressed more business appropriate than the other waiters in uniform. "You're Devin's mom, right?" She gave me a puzzled look. "Yes?" "I'm Calvin. I'm in Devin's band." "Oh, hi. It's nice to finally see one of Devin's friends. He doesn't bring his friends to our house these days." "Why?" I asked. She paused for a few seconds. "Oh, you know how kids are," she said, and she laughed. "Is this your girlfriend?" "Yeah, Sarah. This is Mrs. Jeffries." "Hi," Sarah said and smiled. "It's nice to meet you both. Your server will be right with you." Then she walked off. Our waitress was a tall redhead girl with a really nice body. Her hair was in an updo. She had a heart-shaped face with a beautiful smile and quite a nice body. Of course, I knew better than to look. I only looked at her when ordering and then focused my attention back to Sarah. I was not about to fall into that cliché trap. "We need to have a movie marathon," Sarah said. "Sure," I replied. "What's your favorite movie anyway?" I asked. "Ghost. It's a movie about a guy who dies, comes back as a ghost, and tries to protect his wife. It's a beautiful movie. It's sad, too. We'll watch that during our marathon. I have that at home." "Okay." "Yeah, then we'll watch Almost Famous. You'll like that movie. It's about a rock band." She continued. "Sweet. How about the day after your gig?" "Okay." Then she smiled with excitement. An hour after we ate our food, we both shared an Oreo shake. Kinda corny, but for one, it saves us money. And for two, that was a big fucking shake. I was once again in heaven, sipping on an Oreo shake and sitting next to a beautiful girl. The little gifts that life gives us. We finished our shake and then walked to the theater to see The Others. It had its freaky moments. Sarah clutched me a few times. It was nice to be her security blanket. The movie kind of felt like a rip-off of The Sixth Sense, but I'm not complaining. Which I didn't know until years later. It was a starry night, and the moon was out as we walked home. We walked through the parking lot of the theater. When we got towards the road, a group of seniors stood in their convertible and sprayed us with squirt guns. "Assholes!" I yelled as Sarah laughed. Then she hugged me. "Why are people so immature? I mean, I'm immature, but not like that," I yelled. Sarah squeezed me and smiled. "Relax. It's nice outside. No major harm done." Then we walked for a minute and I roared and tackled her onto the grass. She screamed. And then we looked each other in our eyes. She screamed and then laughed. "Stop it. Now who's being immature?" she said with a smile. We looked each other in the eyes for a second. We were able to kiss when Mike's dad pulled up in his squad car and yelled, "Go home, kids," over the speaker. We both got up. Oh, and to answer your question, there's immaturity and there's being a fool in love. So anytime I seem immature around you, it's like being drunk. While I've never been drunk in my whole life, I've never been around them my whole life. So I swerved and stood in front of her and then grabbed her face with both hands and kissed her real quick. "Sorry, I'm addicted." I'm guessing that I was supposed to say I've never been around them my whole life. I forgot to put the italics. Then I kissed her again. She slapped my shoulder and laughed. We kissed each other goodnight when we were interrupted. "Hey, Calvin, want to come in and play Mario Kart?" Sarah nose laughed, then rolled her eyes. "Nah, buddy, I gotta get going. Bye." Bye. We wanted to kiss each other passionately, but Leo was staring at us, so we hugged for a minute and then I walked away. I walked home thinking about how goofy I felt. Usually I'm not that goofy at all. Out of the whole group, Devin is the goofy one. Scotty is the slightly psycho one. Casey is the macho one. And I'm the quiet and somewhat shy one. When I'm with Sarah, I feel like all those things. Maybe not macho.